Hello, Larson Halleck here with another uncategorized rant. Hey kids, it's time to learn about Larson's employment history. This is a story about, well, two Taekwondo masters that I worked for a few years ago. Technically, I've been employed by three, but the last was really just a guy I rented out space from to teach my own classes. The two former masters worked for the same school, but they were radically different men. I will not be naming names because one of them is a pretty big deal in the art of Taekwondo, and as such, if you find one of these masters, you'll find the other guy. If you find the other guy, you'll find me. And, well, I don't want you people rummaging through my garbage and mailing me your used underwear. The first of these masters was an elderly gentleman, the Grand Master of the school. He was born in Korea under the Japanese occupation, and as you can imagine, his life was pretty goddamn difficult from the moment he was born. His first order priority was surviving that ordeal. But survive he did. Japan's surrender came when he was a mere 15 years old. At this point, he'd been training for a while, but there was more to come. Korea's story in much of the 20th century, or in general, is not a particularly happy one. It was a scant 5 years later, at the age of 20, when war came once again to the Choson Peninsula, when Kim Il-sung's communist hordes poured forth from the north and invaded South Korea over the 38th parallel, completely overwhelming the meager defenses that had been put into place by the nascent Republic of Korea and whatever American occupational forces existed after World War II. This man saw what he had to do and enlisted in the army. And for the next 3 years, this young man, 20 years old, lived through the frozen hell that was the Korean War, fighting at Incheon, Busan, and most likely tagging quite a few communists for himself. After this was done, he continued his refinement and pursuit of the arts of violence, eventually coming to America, traveling around the world, and becoming recognized as one of the founding fathers of the modern sport of Taekwondo. When I knew him, he was a man in his 90s. He was still spry, still spirited, still completely willing to walk into a room full of children, chain-smoking in his old man pajamas. He had zero fucks to give. He had a protege, an American fellow. Said American fellow had his own protege, but there's not much I can say about her other than describing her as a turkey-necked fat ass. His protege was a bright-eyed and bushy-tailed white boy who wanted to learn martial arts. He was raised in a vastly different environment than the Grand Master, the soft, supplicating confines of American suburbia in the 1970s and 80s. He likely consumed much martial arts via film, cartoons, and the burgeoning medium of video games. He obtained a 7th degree black belt in the fistic arts and a personal trainer certification at some point. He then settled down in a wealthy part of New Jersey. When I knew him, he was 40 or so, still spry and athletic. The yielding, supplicating smile of a man who had been in many corporate boardrooms. So why am I telling you this? While I worked for both men technically, I was, on paper, only the employee of the second guy. I occasionally taught fitness classes at this gym/dojo, but mainly I was a glorified janitor. Yeah, surprise. Fitness sucks as a career and it'll fuck you hard. The main reason I bring this up is to tell you about how my personality interacted with these two vastly different men who both dubbed themselves martial arts masters. The first man, who I was technically not employed by, was quite charming, even though I wasn't getting paid by him. I helped the man fix his computer, do his tax return, and naturally, being that my mother is from Taiwan, he liked to ask me about how the other Asian tigers are doing. While I think it would be a stretch to call him a friend or mentor, I had a very cordial relationship with the old guy. I would recommend learning under him, but I can't give you any information. And then there's this asshole. A fake twinkle in his eye and the charming sneer of a corporate dick sucker, he represented a much less commanding style of study than the Grandmaster, who was, by my judging, strict but fair with the young students. The Burger King kid curtly dismissed me when I asked to teach more classes or increase my hours in any way, and then there was one occasion in which I had to discipline a certain child, a child who was more destined to become a catamite than any child I've ever seen in my life. Allow me to explain. One of my duties was to herd the kids out of school at the end of the day. On this fateful occasion, I opened up the dressing room and I saw a child, who we can call Bobby, prancing about in front of the floor-length mirror in his underwear, fondling his nipples. Not wanting to make a fuss, I asked him to hurry up and get dressed. Turkey Neck called me on the phone and told me to send him out because his parents were there. He said, "Give me a few minutes." So I turned away and resumed herding some other kids out of there. 5 minutes later, another phone call on the closed-circuit line, asking where's Bobby. I checked on the dressing room again. Bobby was still fondling away, and in slightly sterner tones, I told him to hurry up and go home. In a voice far fruitier than your average 8-year-old child, I was told to wait another few minutes, and again, Turkey Neck called me telling me to send him out. 5 minutes later, Bobby is still fondling away, the last child in the school, and at this point, I tell him to put his clothes on and get out. No profanities, no yelling, just a stern authoritarian hand. And with that, he gathered his clothes and dressed himself and left without a sound. Of course, he started blubbering like a bitch as soon as he saw his mom, and I was fired the next day over text message. And when I wanted to ask why, I was given a smug thank you and a smile and given my walking orders. Some of you may not have gotten what I'm saying, but I'm going to repeat this. A 7th degree Taekwondo black belt cannot look someone in the eye when he fires them. So what is to be said about this tale of two Taekwondo masters? I've drawn a few conclusions from it. First of all, martial arts in and of itself will not stop you from being a glad-handling little tool. It was very disheartening for me to realize that martial arts is not a panacea since it helped me so much be a better man. But yeah, unfortunately, a lot of decorated martial artists are that way. 2. Martial arts teaches you moves, but it can't teach you grit, heart, and honor. These are not inborn qualities, they can be taught, but they are disciplines in and of themselves outside of martial arts. Thirdly, like in most things, martial arts teaching is better done old school than new school. The reason that I keep using the kid from Burger King as the picture for the younger master is because that's basically what he was like. Do you honestly think Master Wiggity Wiggity Dude Bro could survive in Sean? I don't think so. Proper practice of honor, discipline, and grit, combined with the physical training, will make you a truly great person and embody what it is to be a man. Formidable, yet kind and honorable. Unfortunately, I just wish that Master Dickhead had learned that lesson. I'm Larson Halleck. Keep on training, and also fuck this shit. And now, a word from our sponsors. Hello, are you a fan of Larson Halleck and the Barbaric Gentleman? Of course you are, otherwise you wouldn't be watching. Would you like to help the channel grow? Would you like to help me out? If so, here's how you can. You can go to patreon.com/LarsonHalleck and join the ranks of these illustrious heroes. You can also go to www.paypal.me/LarsonHalleck to also donate some money. You can also buy my book. The Patreon, the PayPal, and the link to my book are all found in the video description. You can also follow me on Twitter or on Instagram. I no longer advertise my Gab because Gab sucks. Otherwise, enjoy, keep watching the videos, and spread the word.